NBA Youngboy just dropped some wild revelations about how Atlantic Records straight up finessed him out of a $300 million empire, and the details are absolutely insane. We're talking about a young king who built one of the biggest fan bases in hip-hop only to get trapped in what he's calling modern-day slavery. This ain't just another label dispute. This is about how the entire music industry is designed to exploit young black artists, and Youngboy just exposed the whole playbook. By the end of this video, you're gonna understand exactly how these labels operate and why no artist should ever sign to Atlantic Records. Let me break it down for you, because this story is way deeper than you think. NBA Youngboy was already one of the most streamed artists on the planet, pulling in millions of views without any label support. But here's what really went down. The Louisiana rapper didn't just lose money. He exposed an entire system designed to trap artists in contracts that benefit everyone except the person making the music. This situation didn't just affect Youngboy, it revealed how Atlantic Records has been running the same scam on multiple artists, and the numbers are absolutely shocking. To understand how this $300 million finesse really went down, we gotta go back to August 2017, when an 18-year-old Youngboy made what would become one of the worst decisions of his career. Let's rewind to August 2017. Back then, NBA Youngboy was already building a massive following on YouTube, dropping mixtapes that were getting millions of views with zero industry support. The young rapper was hungry for that next level, and Atlantic Records came calling with what seemed like a life-changing opportunity. But here's where it gets crazy. They offered him a 5-album deal worth only $2 million through Mike Caron's artist partner group. Now let me break down why this was already a terrible deal from day one. We're talking about $2 million for 5 albums, which breaks down to only $400,000 per album. For an artist who was already pulling massive numbers independently, this was straight up disrespectful. But Youngboy was only 18 years old, and like most young artists, he was focused on the immediate bag rather than the long-term consequences. The timing of this deal is crucial to understand, gang. In 2017, Youngboy was coming off the success of projects like 38 Baby and Mind of a Menace 3, which had already established him as a force in the rap game. His YouTube channel was exploding, and his street credibility was unquestionable. Atlantic saw dollar signs, but they also saw a young, inexperienced artist they could manipulate. The contract came with some major red flags that nobody explained to this young man. First, he didn't own his masters, meaning Atlantic would control the original recordings forever. This is the most important asset any artist can have, because masters generate money for decades. When you don't own your masters, you're essentially working for free while someone else builds generational wealth off your creativity. Second, and this is the most important part, Atlantic had complete control over what counted as an album versus a mixtape. This little detail would become the foundation of their entire scam. They buried this clause deep in the contract language, knowing that most young artists wouldn't understand the implications until it was too late. His music was published under his own Never Broke Again label, which sounds good on paper, but the reality was that Atlantic still controlled everything that mattered. The NBA Never Broke Again brand was Youngboy's creation, representing his mindset and his crew, but Atlantic was positioned to profit from every aspect of it. Even supporters knew this was a bad deal from the jump. Industry insiders were already saying that $2 million for 5 albums from an artist with Youngboy's momentum was highway robbery. But the machine was already in motion, and Atlantic had their hooks in deep. What makes this even more tragic is that Youngboy was already proving he didn't need traditional industry support. His organic growth on YouTube was unprecedented for an artist from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He was building a fan base that would ride with him through anything, but he didn't realize that this loyalty would become his greatest asset and Atlantic's biggest target. Here's where things started getting real crazy. After signing that deal in 2017, Youngboy went into beast mode, dropping project after project. We're talking about a work ethic that was absolutely unmatched in the industry. This young man was treating music like a full-time job, constantly in the studio, constantly creating, constantly feeding his fan base. But Atlantic had other plans, and they were about to show their true colors. The biggest scam they pulled was the album versus mixtape loophole. And this is some next-level manipulation that would make a con artist jealous. According to the standard APG contract, and I quote, "The artist must submit at least 2 projects per calendar year, one of which may be classified as an album under the label's discretion." But here's the kicker. Anything after the 2 projects per year will be considered a mixtape and will not count toward the artist album requirement. Let that sink in for a second, fam. Atlantic got to decide what counted toward Youngboy's 5-album deal, not the artist himself. This is some calculated type shit that's designed to keep artists trapped indefinitely. So while Youngboy was out here grinding, releasing over 18 projects since 2017, Atlantic only classified 3 as studio albums. Think about the math on this. 18 projects, but only 3 count toward his deal. That means 15 projects that made Atlantic millions of dollars were just mixtapes that didn't move him any closer to freedom. This is the type of contract manipulation that should be illegal, but it's standard practice in the music industry. The projects that Atlantic refused to count as albums include some of Youngboy's biggest hits. We're talking about A.I. Youngboy, Until Death Call My Name, For Respect, Top, and countless others that generated massive streaming numbers and revenue. Each of these projects could have been classified as albums by any reasonable standard, but Atlantic had the power to decide otherwise. This is some calculated type shit, no cap. Youngboy thought he was fulfilling his deal and working toward freedom, but Atlantic kept moving the goalpost. According to industry insiders, it's clear that APG and Atlantic Records stand to benefit by prolonging Youngboy's stay on their roster. They were literally milking him for content while keeping him trapped in that contract. The psychological impact of this manipulation can't be understated. Imagine working your ass off, dropping project after project, thinking you're getting closer to freedom, only to find out that the people who are supposed to be your partners are actively working to keep you enslaved. That's the type of betrayal that would break most people, but Youngboy kept pushing. But that's not even the crazy part. In July 2020, Youngboy made an offer that exposed just how greedy these labels really are. He posted on Instagram, "I said they can have the next 4 albums free. All I want is my masters in, still got told no. Dirty game." Let me repeat that. This young man offered to give Atlantic 4 free albums, worth tens of millions of dollars, just to own his own music. And they said no. That's when you know it ain't about money. It's about control and power. They would rather keep him enslaved than let him own his own work. The financial implications of this offer are staggering. 4 albums from NBA Youngboy, given his streaming numbers and fan base loyalty, could easily generate $50 to $100 million in revenue. He was literally offering to work for free just to get his freedom, and Atlantic still refused. That tells you everything you need to know about their true intentions. This rejection revealed the real game. Labels don't just want your current work. They want to control your entire catalog forever. They want to own your legacy, your children's inheritance, and your grandchildren's future. It's not enough to make money off you today. They want to make money off you for the next 100 years. The situation really exploded when Youngboy started speaking out publicly about what Atlantic was doing to him. This is when the blackballing started, and it got ugly real quick. The industry doesn't like it when artists expose their tactics, and they have ways of making you pay for speaking truth. In early 2022, Youngboy dropped some serious truth bombs on social media that had the whole industry shook. He posted, "Why blackball me? I'm the good guy. I was going #1 2 weeks straight with a mixtape, so they took it down off the charts. I don't give a f. You still can't stop me. Don't sign to Atlantic if you an artist. They not gonna support you, especially if you live a certain way." Now he was talking about his project Colors, and this is where Atlantic showed their true colors, no pun intended. This mixtape was going #1 on Apple Music for 2 straight weeks and debuted at #2 on the Billboard 200. The numbers were undeniable. Youngboy's fan base was showing up in massive numbers, proving that he didn't need industry support to dominate the charts. But when Youngboy started complaining about his contract, Atlantic allegedly pulled it from certain platforms. While the deluxe edition was still available on Spotify, it mysteriously disappeared from Apple Music for unknown reasons. This wasn't a technical glitch or a licensing issue. This was deliberate sabotage. This is textbook blackballing, fam. The message was clear. If you speak out against the label, they will sabotage your success as punishment. They were literally taking money out of their own pockets just to teach this young man a lesson about staying in line. That's how petty and vindictive these corporations can be when their authority is challenged. The Colors incident was particularly significant because it showed Youngboy's true power in the marketplace. Without any radio play, without any industry support, without any traditional promotion, he was still outselling artists with full machine support. That's the type of organic fan base that labels dream about. But instead of supporting it, Atlantic was actively working against it. But Youngboy wasn't backing down. He kept exposing their tactics, revealing that his music is not promoted by the label and he is not assisted in any way by that label, Atlantic Records. They simply sit and collect money. Think about that. NBA Youngboy was Atlantic's biggest streaming artist, building his entire fan base through YouTube with zero label support, and they were just collecting checks. This revelation exposed one of the biggest lies in the music industry, that labels provide value through promotion and marketing. In Youngboy's case, Atlantic was doing absolutely nothing to support his career, but they were taking the majority of profits from his success. They were literally parasites feeding off his creativity and work ethic. According to DJ Academics, NBA Youngboy makes nearly $17 million per year just from his YouTube content alone. That's more than most major label artists make from all revenue streams combined. Atlantic did zero marketing, zero promotion, but they were taking the majority of profits. That's some straight-up parasitic behavior. The YouTube numbers tell the whole story. Youngboy built his empire on that platform, connecting directly with fans, dropping music videos that would get millions of views within hours. His comment sections were like a community, with fans from all over the world showing love and support. This was organic growth that money can't buy, but Atlantic was positioned to profit from all of it. Youngboy also exposed how these labels actively work against their own artists when it comes to content protection. He posted, "Atlantic banned my music from all YouTubers. Get a real job," highlighting how reaction channels and content creators were making money off his work while he saw none of the profits. Atlantic had the power to stop this exploitation, but chose not to, probably because they were getting paid too. The more Youngboy spoke out, the more the industry's dirty secrets started coming to light. And he wasn't alone in this fight. Other Atlantic artists started speaking up too, and the pattern became impossible to ignore. This wasn't just one disgruntled artist. This was a systematic problem that affected multiple careers. On the same day Youngboy was exposing Atlantic, Meek Mill dropped his own bombshell. He posted, "I made Atlantic Records hundreds of millions and let them rape me out Radia artists they came to me about in jail. They didn't put nothing into Expensive Pain and then said I can't drop another project for 9 months at the end of my contract after I made them hundreds of millions." The timing of these revelations wasn't coincidental. Multiple artists were reaching their breaking point simultaneously, and they were coordinating their exposure of Atlantic's practices. Meek's situation was particularly revealing because it showed how labels manipulate release schedules to maintain control, even when artists have fulfilled their contractual obligations. This wasn't just one disgruntled artist. This was a whole movement. PNB Rock, Bod Baby, and Roddy Ricch all had similar stories about Atlantic's predatory practices. The label had a clear pattern of targeting young, vulnerable artists with terrible deals and then exploiting them for years. PNB Rock's situation was particularly tragic in hindsight. He had spoken about feeling unsupported by Atlantic, and his frustrations with the label were well documented before his untimely death. His story serves as a reminder of how these industry pressures can affect artists' mental health and overall well-being. Bod Bobby, despite her controversial rise to fame, provided another perspective on Atlantic's practices. As a young female artist, she faced additional challenges and exploitation that highlighted the intersectional nature of industry abuse. Her willingness to speak out, despite potential career consequences, showed the courage it takes to challenge these powerful institutions. Youngboy also exposed how the industry discriminates based on lifestyle and background. When he said, "Don't sign to Atlantic if you are artist, they not gon' support you, especially if you live a certain way," he was calling out how labels profit off street artists but won't actually support them. They see these artists as liabilities, not investments, but they're still happy to collect that money. This discrimination is particularly insidious because it targets artists from marginalized communities who often have the most authentic stories to tell. Labels want the credibility and marketability that comes with street narratives, but they don't want to invest in the artists or communities that create those narratives. The legal implications started becoming clear too. Industry experts began analyzing these contracts and found that what Youngboy was describing could potentially be challenged in court. The album versus mixtape loophole might not hold up under legal scrutiny, especially when labels are clearly acting in bad faith. Entertainment lawyers started speaking out about the predatory nature of these contracts, particularly when they target young artists who don't have proper legal representation. The power imbalance between major labels and individual artists creates an environment where exploitation is not just possible but inevitable. But the street consequences were immediate and powerful. Youngboy's fan base, known as the 4KT movement, started boycotting Atlantic artists and calling for industry reform. The hashtag Free Youngboy started trending, and other independent artists began sharing their own horror stories about major label deals. The fan response was unprecedented in its organization and and persistence. Youngboy's supporters weren't just casual listeners, they were a dedicated community that understood the injustice of his situation and were willing to take action. They organized streaming boycotts, social media campaigns, and even protests outside Atlantic Records offices. This whole situation changed the conversation about record deals forever, and the impact is still being felt today. Youngboy didn't just expose Atlantic, he exposed the entire system that's been exploiting young black artists for decades. His courage to speak out, despite the potential consequences, opened the floodgates for industry reform discussions. The math that Youngboy revealed is absolutely insane and serves as a case study in contract manipulation. He signed a 5-album deal in 2017, but by 2022 he had released 18+ projects with only 3 counting as albums. Industry analysts calculated that if he continues at the same pace, Youngboy could end up giving Atlantic 28 total projects on a 5-album contract, almost 6 times the agreed amount. That's not a record deal, that's modern-day slavery, just like he said. The financial implications of this exploitation are staggering when you break down the numbers. Each of Youngboy's projects generates millions in streaming revenue, merchandise sales, and touring opportunities. If Atlantic is getting 28 projects instead of 5, they're essentially stealing 23 projects worth of revenue from the artist. That could easily represent hundreds of millions of dollars in value. But here's what's really wild. Despite all this exploitation, Youngboy became the second most streamed artist on YouTube as of 2022, falling just behind Drake. He built this empire with no label support, no radio play, and constant industry blackballing. That's the power of authentic connection with your audience, and it proves that the traditional industry model is becoming obsolete. Youngboy's success without industry support is a blueprint for other artists. He showed that you can build a massive, loyal fan base through direct connection and consistent content creation. His YouTube strategy was revolutionary, treating the platform like his own personal TV network, dropping music videos, behind-the-scenes content, and connecting with fans in real time. The ripple effects are still happening throughout the industry. More artists are demanding ownership of their masters, and lawyers are scrutinizing these album versus mixtape clauses in new contracts. Youngboy's exposure forced the industry to have conversations they didn't want to have about fair compensation and artist rights. Young artists coming up now are more educated about contract terms because of Youngboy's revelations. They're asking harder questions, demanding better terms, and refusing to sign deals that don't respect their value. This shift in artist awareness is directly attributable to Youngboy's willingness to expose the truth about his situation. Other established artists started following his lead and demanding better treatment from their labels. When he demanded that Atlantic ban his music from reaction videos, posting, "Atlantic ban my music from all YouTubers, get a real job," he was highlighting another way labels failed to protect their artists' content while still profiting from it. The irony is thick. YouTubers were making money reacting to his music. Atlantic wasn't stopping it, but they also weren't promoting him. They were letting everyone else profit off his work while keeping him trapped in a terrible contract. This exposed another layer of industry dysfunction where labels collect money but don't provide protection or support. The cultural impact extends beyond just the music industry. Youngboy's situation became a symbol of broader systemic exploitation that affects young black entrepreneurs across all industries. His story resonated with people who had experienced similar power imbalances in their own careers and businesses. Today, Youngboy's situation serves as a cautionary tale for every young artist considering a major label deal. His exact words were, "Don't sign to Atlantic, trust me." And that warning has probably saved countless artists from making the same mistake. The phrase, "Don't sign to Atlantic," became a rallying cry for artist independence. The culture of silence that these labels create through blackballing and intimidation is finally being challenged. Artists are realizing that speaking out, even if it costs them in the short term, can lead to long-term freedom and industry change. Youngboy proved that authentic artistry and real fan connection can survive industry retaliation. Independent artists and entrepreneurs started studying Youngboy's model of direct fan engagement and platform ownership. His success without traditional industry support became a case study in business schools and music industry programs. He proved that the middleman model is becoming less relevant in the digital age. The legal precedents being set by Youngboy's situation could benefit artists for generations. Entertainment lawyers are using his case to challenge similar contract clauses, and some have already won victories for their clients based on the arguments Youngboy's situation highlighted. Youngboy's legacy in this situation isn't just about his own freedom. It's about exposing a system that's been designed to exploit young talent for generations. He showed that even when labels try to destroy you for speaking truth, authentic artistry and real fan connection can't be stopped. The $300 million he potentially lost isn't just about money. It represents the value that these labels extract from artists while giving back crumbs. But by exposing their tactics, Youngboy might have saved the next generation of artists from falling into the same trap. His sacrifice became a gift to future artists who now know what to look out for. For real, this young king took a stand when he could have just stayed quiet and collected his checks. That's the type of courage that changes industries and protects future generations. Atlantic thought they could silence him through blackballing and contract manipulation, but they underestimated the power of truth and authentic connection with the people. The game is changing, and it's because artists like NBA Youngboy refuse to accept modern-day slavery disguised as record deals. His influence extends beyond music into broader conversations about fair business practices, generational wealth, and the importance of owning your own work. That's some real gangsta shit right there, no cap. The movement Youngboy started continues to grow, with new artists citing his courage as inspiration for their own independence. His story proves that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is tell the truth, even when it costs you everything. That's the type of legacy that lasts forever, and that's worth more than any record deal Atlantic could ever offer.